Let's start our analysis of how imagery can engage the senses by starting to think about sight. I think it's the one that maybe feels the most natural or the most common. Like if you're reading a novel or reading a story, I think we're usually imagining maybe what the character looks like. But especially in poetry, when you're thinking about analyzing, writing about poetry, you can be asking yourself, what visuals does the poet create? And a lot of that is going to come down to their word choice. Are they choosing especially descriptive words to help the reader visualize what they're writing about? Something's especially brilliant and vivid, something's indistinct and it's hard to see. Something's tarnished, meaning like it's worn and maybe a little bit corroded. These types of words are especially like visual words to help us engage with our sense of sight. If we look at this poem, Hope by Alice Dunbar Nelson, I want you to kind of try to picture it. Like, what image is she creating? And then we'll go through and try to notice what words are creating those images. So she writes, wild seas of tossing, writhing waves, a wreck half sinking in the torturous gloom. One man clings desperately while Boreas raves and helps to blot the rays of moon and stars. Then comes a sudden flash of light which gleams on shores afar. So that poem, really nice poem, really short poem. But what visuals were being created as we read through there? Like, what picture do you have in mind? I think to me, this poem especially, it's kind of just like painting a picture of this like one little moment. And the phrases that stand out the most to me, first with these first line, wild seas of tossing, writhing waves. I think especially the words tossing and writhing create this clear image of waves that are not just like waving, but like tossing across each other, like really large, dangerous waves. And there's this wreck, like a ship sinking, and it's half sinking in it. And even these two words, if you're like, is this daytime? Is this nighttime? What picture do we have here? I think the phrase torturous gloom to me sounds dark. It sounds kind of this like spooky darkness. It's gloomy. Um, so in those first two lines, it's this setting of out in the ocean. It's gloomy. It's dark. There's a boat sinking as the waves are crashing on it. And in that scene, she puts one man clinging desperately. So maybe hanging on to this boat. I had to look this part up. It says, while Boreas raves. It's an allusion to the Greek god of winds. I didn't know that. I had to be a little curious and figure out what Boreas was. So it says, like, I think that this allusion to the Greek god of winds. I assume the wind is raving. Um, but adding maybe to the setting and the darkness a little bit more, this wind and storm is blotting the rays of moon. Like we're imagining this torturous gloom, pitch black, no moon, no stars. And in this moment that she's painting, there's a sudden flash of light which gleams on shores afar. That in this one little moment, like if we've only seen, like a split second of this seed, like something lights up on the shore afar. Like there's something in the distance glowing, a sudden flash of light. Um, so in one, two, three, in 6 lines, with the sixth line only being a word, she's created this really clear picture using some of this really descriptive language. Um, Overall, based on her title, Hope, I think this is a metaphor for hope. That if you're stuck in the depths of this torturous gloom, clinging desperately, that hope is this light on a shore afar that you can see in the distance and give you a little glimmer of hope. We don't have to totally go down into the metaphor and the overall themes and meanings of the poem, but just as far as the visual imagery, she uses some of this really descriptive language to paint this clear picture of this moment. So there's an example of a poem that really engages and uses imagery to engage with our sense of sight.